We're turning to the car industry now because the US and Europe have been going after China recently for unfairly propping up its electric car industry. In fact, the European Commission's anti-subsidy investigation is wrapping up in the coming weeks and some sort of response is expected from Brussels. But with annual sales of electric vehicles already above 30% of all cars in China, the mood there remains optimistic, as our correspondent Stephen MacDonald saw at the Beijing Auto Show.
Until recently, the idea that electric vehicles would make up a significant portion of all cars on our streets was something for the future. Then China came along and thrust the future upon us now. It's achieved this with breakneck growth in the industry, fueled by government subsidies. The problem with this is that the Europeans and Americans are saying that that's given Chinese brands an unfair advantage on price, that they've been able to flood markets in other countries at rates that local brands can't compete with. And they're threatening to put tariffs on Chinese cars to level the playing field. The counter-argument to that, though, is that at the beginning, you needed to have such subsidies, to have enough charging stations, to give electric vehicles a significant enough portion of the market to survive into the future. And the biggest change that's happened has been in terms of the attitudes of ordinary people. You just have to speak to the would-be customers at this huge auto show to see that.
In China's big cities, more are choosing electric cars because they are good value for money and good for the environment.
New energy cars have become totally normal and accepted.
They have good tech and they're good to drive.
From voice-triggered instructions to the latest flashy on-screen displays, China's electric vehicle industry is showing off what it can do. For example, these charging stations boast 500 kilometres or 310 miles of driving after just 12 minutes plugged in. And the established European and American brands are also taking on this country's many new players here. Chinese companies have invested heavily in the development of electric vehicles, building huge factories and the like, and they are going to need export revenue to make their money back. Many won't survive because the competition is just so fierce. And yet the upside is they can always fall back on the massive domestic market, and it looks like it'll just keep growing as more and more people make the switch away from traditional vehicles.